Taliban training camps will restart by September in Afghanistan, sparking new wave of terror against weak West. Terrorist training camps could be set up once again in Afghanistan and may spawn a new wave of violence against the West. Experts have warned. Taliban fighters are surging across the war torn nation as the US moves to withdraw its forces after 20 years and more than 1 trillion spent on the campaign. And it was chillingly predicted the resurgent militants and their accompanying terror groups now see the West as weak and ripe for striking back against in a wave of bloodshed. Professor Anthony Glees from the Center for Security and Intelligence Studies at the University of Buckingham grimly warned that Taliban are now back with a vengeance. And he foresaw a return of the infamous terrorist training camp that once dotted Afghanistan. The camps saw fighters from Al Qaeda and other terror groups learn how to make bombs, hone their killing skills, and plot against the West with the backing of the Taliban. He told the Sun Online there will definitely be a fresh terror threat posed by a new Taliban regime. And he added the US withdrawal will make them believe we have lost our will to fight for our values and that we are weaker, not stronger. The more the Taliban are left to their own devices, the more they can hone their forces and their fellow Islamist students in the West, he said. At the time of September 11 attacks, it's believed there were 120 training camps operating across Afghanistan and Pakistan, training militia to support the Taliban and terrorist fightings for operations abroad. Taliban forces were first overthrown in 2001 following a US invasion, but since US President Joe Biden's decision to withdraw, the group has now gone on to siege one-third of Afghanistan, and further offensives are expected throughout the summer, with warnings the jihadi forces could take the capital of Kabul within 6 months. It is being described by concerned US intelligence officials as the greatest jihadi victory since the Soviets quit in 1989. Experts now fear a deadly resurgence could unfold, allowing jihadis to form a base to unleash a reign of terror on the West, with Afghan forces running scared and a government on the verge of complete collapse. If the terror group continues its offensive bleach, experts also fear the streets of Afghan could return to the days of Taliban rule, with public beheadings and amputations as well as women being sold into sex slavery. They also fear with a fractured Taliban in charge, other terror groups such as ISIS could use the country as a stronghold to plot atrocities in Europe and the UK. Professor Glees told the Sun Online, "The point is that Taliban are fanatics, the worst kind of enemy. They are, in their terms, not just extremely brave because they love death like all Islamists, but are fighting for a belief, a religion. The word Taliban means religious student, not just political control. They will once they have full control, return to type and do all the things they did before, prosecute, torture and murder all who oppose them, enslave and degrade their fellow female citizens, prevent them from gaining an education, destroy anything that conflicts with their religious worldview." He went on, "I am sure the training of jihadists will resume, and I had not be surprised if the first recruits to the training camps don't begin to make their way to Afghanistan on 12 September 2021. We in the UK have spent more than 21 years dealing with the Islamist threat. We have no interest in coming back to have there another to go at us. What more precisely, because we seem to be retreating, seem to be agreeing the Taliban has won. We will encourage them to strike at us again. We seem weak, and that's the last thing we should be doing. We are not strong enough to be there without the USA. The experts also said Biden made entirely the wrong decision, with consequences for all Western states, but most for of all for the brave Afghans when he followed through with his predecessor Donald Trump's plan to pull out the troops. They jumped at the chance to work with the US, the UK, and our NATO allies to try to create a better future for themselves, have been betrayed. They now await a terrifying fate, he said. Robert Clark from the national security think tank Henry Jackson Society told The Sun online while part of the US withdrawal agreement was the nation would not be a safe haven for terrorists, the Taliban may not stick to that bargain. He also warned other terrorist groups such as ISIS may seek to move in and set up their own recruitment and training camp, saying it could become a terror battleground. Much the same as the Taliban did before carrying out 9/11 attacks, Afghan was just to plan attacks and carry out training, he said. The Taliban as a group are diverse and clash at senior levels. As they become more fractured, the worse it will become, and the other terror groups like to take advantage. And day to day life for the people of Afghanistan will likely revert to the brutal rule of the militants group, with some already pledging to return the nation to strict versions of Islamic law. The Taliban has seized control of a third of the country, most of that territory within the last 2 weeks, putting them within striking distance of major cities such as Herat and Kabul, where 95% of NATO were previously based. A recent US intelligence report warned that they could take the capital within 6 months, and experts fearing the government could be overthrown by the end of the year. The terror group is reportedly already launching violent attacks on Kabul, a city well known for opposing Taliban rule after 55 were killed in a car bombing at a school back in May. Afghan forces are said to be striking deals with Taliban soldiers in exchange for immunity, abandoning checkpoints, and handling over weapons to avoid bloodshed, a move that has allowed them to move quickly. A 25-year-old Afghan fighter trained by US and UK troops told the Times, America and Britain came to our country and fueled the flames of war with the Taliban. Now the foreigners are running away without quelling the fire, leaving us alone to a life or death struggle. Fighting has exhausted Afghan forces, seeing troops complain they are outnumbered, outgunned, underpaid, and weary from 20 years of fighting. Mr. Clark, who served in the British Army for 9 years, told The Sun online is unsurprising the Afghan forces are rolling over, with local commanders having to strike deals with the Taliban. And while these deals could help quell some bloodshed, it wouldn't stop the ruthless rise, with the potential fall of Kabul sparking a domino effect. By the end of the year, it is most likely that the government will have fallen or be fighting to survive, he said. Thank you.